rappers, they're all so tough until you hear their real name.
Yeah, or until you see them at a Puffy party.
Oh.
Then they're not tough no more. I'm surprised that the rap game is still alive after, because the masculinity that the rappers are supposed to portray, you know, perform on me and you get your deal. That was what I heard while I was on Empire about some of the people in the business. And Petey Pablo, you remember Petey Pablo?
I know who that is.
Petey Pablo, talented writer, singer. Him and Young Buck wrote a song called Ho Is Home. And in that song, back in about 2011 or 29 or something, because he called out all of the taking place at those parties and those people, he was kicked out of the music business. No radio station would play his stuff. So you look for Petey Pablo, he's not around anymore. Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, you know, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at it. Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. He's sitting there, just looking at it, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, you know, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to
The music industry has the power to build stars overnight, but it also has the power to destroy them just as quickly. When someone gets erased from the spotlight, it often happens quietly and without explanation. That's exactly what happened to Petey Pablo. Once a southern rap icon, Petey exploded onto the scene in the early 2000s with chart-topping hits and a signature sound that had the whole country spinning their shirts like helicopters. But as fast as he rose, he vanished. Now, actor Terrence Howard is pulling back the curtain, suggesting that Petey's fall wasn't a coincidence. According to him, Petey Pablo didn't just fade into obscurity, he was systematically broken and blackballed by a powerful industry that demands silence and submission. What happened to Petey Pablo might be more than just a career slump. It could be a cautionary tale about what happens when you refuse to play by the industry's rules.
For 1 year, out of being locked up for 6 years, I was a millionaire. And that was the craziest thing in the world. Like, I sat on the corner, the day we signed the deal, me and my partner Fab, we bought, I remember we had like $7 and like almost $8. And we bought us 240s of Old English 800, 2 egg rolls from the little Chinese spot, and it was raining. And we sat outside and we cried like motherfuckers, like babies, bro. I done it. You know, like it was hard at times. Again, I wanted to quit. You know, I mean, I was already 20-something years old and I'm sleeping on somebody's couch. You know, I'm staying in New York. You know, I'm the only thing, because I've never been a slouch. So the only thing that I know that I can do for the people that I'm staying with is make sure that they house clean and make sure that they dishes washed. And, you know, I mean, make sure if they needed something from the store, I would run to the store for them. But I was that dude before I went to prison. You know what I mean? I was that, you know, my money was straight. You know what I mean? I was the big dog before I went. And so here I am now washing people's dishes and, you know, sweeping their house up. And it was hard for a dude that was on a certain level in life, you know, as a street guy, to have to humble himself to just survive. You know what I mean? Because I refused. I mean, sure, I had people in New York that wanted to hand me something. Hey, man, come on, man. We know who you are. Hey, man, we know your brother. We know that. Hey, man, we remember you from back. Hey, man, here, take this and get yourself. I'm not doing that. Because if I do something wrong, then all of this would have been for nothing. You know what I mean? I came home from doing 6 years and left everything and everyone that I knew and I loved to go to a place in pursuit of my dream. I was determined to make this dream happen. And I can't get up here and do something stupid and mess around and get myself caught up in something. I'm already in New York. And, you know, anything can happen in New York. You know what I mean? A lot of people went up there and they never come back.
Petey Pablo. Petey Pablo is about to sign with Death Row. You feel me? That in the booth, and he said something. He said, put Suge's name in it. And Suge just walked through the door. It's like 30 Bloods and Crips. You could tell was hating, and the tension was in that. I ain't with none of that blood crip, but I say blood and cuz in the same sentence, nigga. I'm a real nigga, I'm an East Oakland nigga, so I can do that. The other can't. So the whole point is, you know, I ain't gonna disrespect you. If you're a crip, I ain't gonna keep blooding you. If you're a blood, I ain't gonna cuz you. That just ain't how I get out. You know, I'm gonna do the respect, right? But all my real though, you feel me? Most of them, that was real hitters. You feel me? At the same time, that Petey put the name, Suge name in the song. And hey, cut the music. That went into the booth and closed the curtain. Right? We're like, what the going on? About 3 minutes later, the curtain over. Session over. What the you mean session over? We just got here. Session was over. I don't know what that said to that, but I guess he didn't want that to say his name in the song, period. Cut that whole session over. I ain't heard from Petey Pablo since.
Petey Pablo didn't exactly have a smooth entry into the world of music. After spending time in prison on robbery charges in the early 1990s, he redirected his energy and channeled it into his passion, music. He eventually crossed paths with Timbaland, one of the most influential producers of that era, and together they created what would become his breakout hit in 2001, Raise Up. Produced by Timbaland, it wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural moment. The song became an anthem for the South, and the lyrics North Carolina, Come On and Raise Up turned into a chant at concerts, parties, and sports arenas. The song peaked at number 25 on the Billboard Hot 100 and helped Petey's debut album Diary of a Sinner, first entry earn a Grammy nomination for Best Rap Album in 2003. The album went gold, proving that Petey wasn't a one-hit wonder.
Today, when you say North Carolina, everybody want to raise up. It's like, it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling, and I'm still humbled because I'm such a hometown country boy that I don't feel, there's nothing bigger than the group, and Carolina is the group. So I don't feel like what everybody looks at me as, but it's just an amazing feeling.
Did you ever imagine it would be as big as it's gotten?
Never. All I wanted, and I was just inducted into the Carolina Music Hall of Fame. Right. So in my speech, I said, only thing I wanted was for a state that never had the recognition to be recognized. Because my label was like, Petey, we can't put this song out because don't nobody know what North Carolina is. And I'm like, well, this is all I'm giving you right now. So you got to work with what you got. So they was like, well, at least go back and put all the cities' names in there. So I'm like, okay, but this one was the one.
2 years later, in 2004, Petey dropped his sophomore album, Still Writing in My Diary, second entry, which featured his biggest hit to date, Free K-Leak. The track became a staple in clubs and on radio stations, reaching number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 and going platinum during the ringtone era when digital sales were booming. Petey Pablo was everywhere, BET, MTV, award shows, and he collaborated with artists like Kira and Lil Jon. For a moment, it felt like he was poised to be one of the defining voices of Southern hip-hop. But that moment was short-lived.
And our own, that's the young people. That is gonna come up. I bought Petey Pablo's Diary of a Sinner. Petey Pablo, I love him. My kids, Dad, who is this country dude? He's a rapper. North Carolina, raise up, put your shirt on, twist it around your head like a helicopter. That's my cut, man. I actually took my shirt off. I've been caught up in this off. Then he got Diary of a Sinner. I love the song about when he was down to he thought he was dead broke. I had scraping up change in the ashtray, 2 cigarettes. He didn't know how he was gonna make it. That song, I listen to that to this day before I go to work, because it reminds me. Because it ain't always been this way. You know, you can't get this life. First of all, it's a blessing. This is grace and favor, you know. This ain't, your life ain't really supposed to be like this. I ain't really done nothing to deserve this. This is grace. This God just gave me a lot of grace, man. I really, on the real, I take no credit for where I am today. You know, I work hard, I'm funny, but this life I got, this crazy.
Despite having 2 successful albums and a solid fan base, Petey Pablo's career took a strange turn after 2004. His visibility dropped off sharply. He wasn't putting out new music, wasn't being featured on tracks, and was noticeably absent from festivals and award shows. While artists like T.I., Young Jeezy, and Ludacris continued to ride the Southern rap wave, Petey seemed to disappear. That disappearance raised eyebrows. Why would an artist with back-to-back hits suddenly go silent? According to Terrence Howard, it wasn't because Petey lacked talent or made poor business decisions. It was because he refused to conform.
Because they accused him of fondling or touching someone at a bar.
Oh, yeah.
At a bar, and then they accused him of touching some dude.
It sounded like
Puffy's thing. I'm like, dude,
I mean,
that's not Cuba. He wouldn't. I can't imagine.
Really?
Cuba touching some man. No.
A man.
A man. Yeah.
What is it? What is it with all the man-on-man action that I'm learning about? I mean, like with the Puffy parties. Like the last thing I ever thought that went on there was gay stuff. Not that gay stuff was wrong. It's wonderful. I just did not think that's what Puffy was doing.
Yeah, well, I didn't think it either. And even when my assistant said that stuff, I still was like joking it off. And it wasn't until later on that I heard other things from people that worked from him. You remember that back in the times of slavery, they had a thing called breaking the buck, where they would take, not to go in a bad place, but this is how I see what's happening, the parallels with what's happening correlates what's happening in the business. If they, back in the times of slavery, if they had like some 12-year-old slave that was just full of himself and confident and, wasn't listening, they would tie him to a log or a barrel. And a bunch of the overseers would him. To where when he walked around with the slaves now, he didn't have the confidence.
Sure.
He was broken, and it was called breaking the buck.
Wow.
And that's still taking place. And so to hear that people in the industry are still making young rappers who have fought the worst of circumstances, being disenfranchised, being discounted, and then they finally like, I'm gonna put it into music. I'm gonna do it into music, and I'm gonna, and get myself together, and they go and see someone, and they tell them, okay, yeah, you can have a deal, perform on me, and you get your deal. That was what I heard while I was on Empire about some of the people in the business. And Petey Pablo, you remember Petey Pablo?
I know who that is.
Petey Pablo, talented writer, singer. Him and Young Buck wrote a song called Ho Is On. And in that song, back in about 2011 or 29 or something, because he called out all of the taking place at those parties and those people, he was kicked out of the music business. No radio station would play his stuff. So you look for Petey Pablo, he's not around anymore. But that song, Ho It's On, they did not care. They went all in on it.
Terrence Howard has spoken openly about what he believes goes on behind closed doors in the entertainment industry. He hinted that artists who resist certain behind-the-scenes pressures, whether that means compromising their integrity, attending elite parties, or remaining silent about questionable activities, often find themselves shut out. He says that's exactly what happened to Petey Pablo. Petey reportedly questioned the system, challenged the people in charge, and refused to be a pawn. For that, the industry turned its back on him. He went from mainstream darling to persona non grata in record time. Terrence Howard's personal story with Petey Pablo sheds even more light on the rapper's character. Back in 2005, Howard was at an event in Los Angeles and found himself in a jam. He'd forgotten his wallet and couldn't pay. Petey Pablo, without hesitation, handed him $200. It was a simple act of kindness, but Howard never forgot it. Fast forward to 2015, Howard was starring in Empire, the #1 show on television at the time. When producers needed an actor to play an inmate in one of the show's prison storylines, Howard remembered Petey Pablo.
The whole Terrence story, that was a whole story within itself anyway, because the reason that I got that role on Empire was, like Cherry said, I'm just that guy. I just so happened to run into Terrence Howard in the Four Seasons Hotel, and I was like, hey, what's up, man? That's Terrence just hustling the flow. Oh, man, what's up? He's like, man, I listen to all your stuff. He was like, even when I was on Hustling the Flow, he was like, I listen to your music. He said, I was trying to act like Petey Pablo, and that's crazy to me.
You did.
So I said, hey, man, we all going out. What's up? You want to come out? And he was like, nah, man, I'm going through a little something right now, man. I lost my wallet, lost my credit cards and everything, so I'm just going up to my room, man. And so I was like, damn, you lost. So I reached in my pocket and pulled out $200. He was like, here, take it. He was like, here. He was like, I was like, no, man, you just don't be walking around with nothing in your pocket. Like, here.
Oh, that's
and I gave him the money and I walked off. So fast forward, 13 years later, I get a phone call. And this was a couple years ago. He was like, is this Petey? I was like, yeah. He was like, first of all, I need you to see. He's like, this is Terrence Howard. I was like, damn, what's up, bro? I ain't heard from you in years. Last time, he was like, yeah, last time I seen you, yeah, something happened between us. And I need you to send me your address because I owe you some money. And I was like, nah, bro, you don't owe me no money. He was like, bro, send me your address or I'm going to hang the phone up and and you'll never hear from me again. So I'm like, okay. So I give him my phone, my address. 2 days later, I get a check for $15,000.
Dang, what a great investment.
Crazy, right? Crazy. So I called him back and I was like, bro, he was like, listen, you do not realize that at that time, I didn't lose my wallet. He was like, I just said that because I was so embarrassed that I was going through what I was going through in life. And he was like, effortlessly, you just reached in your pocket and handed me money and didn't really even know me. You knew me from watching me on TV. You know, we had never had a conversation or anything. And he was like, and people that I'd known for years had denied me at that point in time in his life. And he was like, and he was really in a bad place. He was like, for me to reach in my pocket and effortlessly just do an act of kindness that way, he was like, it changed his thought about life. And I was like, man, that's really crazy. He was like, now we got that out of the way. Now I need you to help me on this Empire situation.
And Petey, what's next for you? We saw you on the set of Empire. Saw you doing your thing on Empire. Are you going back to the set? But you said you got to go to LA first, actually.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, I'm still writing music for the show. Mm-hmm. And Terrence is my brother, you know, and that's another thing. Again, I don't want to speak too much about it because, you know, when I get uneasy feelings about certain situations, you know, sometimes my mouth will put me in situations where I'll be walking around looking like I have lost everything in the world. Like, what did I just say? Mm-hmm. I did not just say that publicly, but I will, you know, and really don't mind it. But I mean, I understand that there are dire consequences behind some of the things that I say. But Terrence Howard is my brother, and there's nothing that man cannot ask me to do besides some of that stuff they do on TV. No.
Clear that up right now.
No, but that's my brother, man, and you know, whatever I can do to help him and the show, man, I mean, I'm always there, and you know.
That connection landed Pablo a small role on Empire, where he played an inmate alongside Howard's character, Lucius Leon. Not only that, but Pablo also wrote the track Snitch Bitch, which was featured in the show. The song brought him $15,000 in revenue and gave him a brief return to the spotlight. But it wasn't a full-blown comeback. It was a thank you from Howard, a nod to someone who had shown him loyalty and integrity. Unfortunately, even with the exposure from Empire, the industry still had no interest in reviving Pablo's career. His name remained absent from radio, major labels, and tour lineups. In 2010, Petey Pablo made headlines for all the wrong reasons. He was arrested at Raleigh-Durham International Airport for attempting to bring a stolen, loaded Smith & Wesson pistol onto a flight. He was charged with possession of a stolen firearm and sentenced to nearly 3 years in federal prison. On the surface, it seemed like another artist sabotaging his own career. But when you look at the bigger picture, things don't add up. Other rappers, T.I., Lil Wayne, Meek Mill, have all served time and returned to massive support from labels and fans. Their prison stints became part of their narrative, part of their redemption arc.
Petey Pablo, let me just say something right quick. Hip-hop, anybody who got a respect for hip-hop, you listen to your right now. Suge, y'all gotta respect what Suge done did for the game, okay? Regardless of the negativity that the media has portrayed, that man is hip-hop history. You understand what I'm saying? That man is hip-hop history. When was on and cracking and that man was in the media without negativity, y'all was all on his Then as soon as the white man or whoever come in and try to say what the man did wrong, who he was involved with, I want to let him go. Stop doing that to people in the industry. Judge them off your own merit. Don't let no other rapper say something about one rapper and you take from that one. You understand what I'm saying? Stick with it. Be a true fan. Don't be no whole fan. You know what I'm saying? Yes. If you dedicated, be dedicated and us. If not, we don't need you because gonna eat anyway. Eat anyway. You understand what I'm saying? It's new in the system. Where you at, Remy? Where you at, Jay? Where you at, Jay? It's new in the system. Ain't nobody just trying to shake their in the videos no more. We about to get money. It's about network and communication. You understand what I'm saying?